Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul, joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler at the University of Virginia, and producer Zach Bloomquist, the best executive producer in the game, is with us. He's got chocolate bar. What is it, Reese's?
Reese's chocolate bar. Good thing.
Zach was very happy coming downstairs today with his Reese's bar here. I think I love Reese's, but Snickers is...
Hold on. No. Don't get over this. What is a Reese's chocolate bar?
What are you thinking? So Ziggy wants to probably call it a peanut butter cup. Oh, is it actually a chocolate bar? What is it? Oh,
see, it's a bar. Yeah. See, Paul, this is why you ask. He's got a whole bar.
So it's a chocolate bar.
Are you eating that whole thing?
Well, dude, he had two of them. He had two of them, Ziggy.
This is the first one. And here's the second one.
Ziggy looks, for those listening on audio, Ziggy is very disappointed with Zach's.
I live to eat. Unlike some people, I live to eat.
He lives to eat. He lives to eat. So, in case you're hungry for some candy, producer Zach is that could be a good sponsorship, Reese's, if you're listening. Producer Zach could pound some Reese's bars while we do our show. If you're enjoying this,
he could what?
Pound some Reese's bars. He could eat them. All right, come on, let's chill here. If you're enjoying this content so far, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get down to 20,000 subscribers by the time the NFL season rolls around. That'd be pretty awesome. On Thursday, I mean, this will probably help us. Are you good over there, Ziggy? You good?
We're good.
Yeah.
It's just a little insect. Just a little insect.
Trying to run a football show here, and
look, Paul. It's not the bugs come when they come. I have to be ready to do battle against them at any moment.
If we want to get up to 20,000 subscribers, I can't see anything better than the Ziggy Mock Draft 1.0 that we'll be releasing on Thursday. The whole Thursday episode will be about Ziggy's mock draft. Jack, Zach, and I will be reacting. Well, probably Jack and I will be reacting to the Ziggy mock draft, which I got a sneak peek at so far. And let me just say, it might change a bit before Thursday, but this thing filled with excitement. It's filled with excitement all over the place. Ziggy's got trades going on. He has players falling you wouldn't expect, players rising you wouldn't expect. Some massive surprises in this Ziggy mock 1.0, but would you expect anything less? Ziggy, we're all very excited for this.
Oh, I'm excited too for the mock draft. It's we'll see. We've got a lot of NFC North teams. There's some explosive action, including one special thing with the Chicago Bears that you will not want to miss.
Yes, the Bears thing, I don't know if you're going to do it or not, but the Bears thing that you've been talking about would really blow some people away here. We have a really fun show today. We're going to be talking about the most interesting NFL teams heading into the season, who's most captivating, the storylines that we're paying the most attention to. There will be a couple quick hitters regarding Kirk Cousins to Cleveland potentially. Zach's fed up with the Dolphins, who Teron Armstead retired, so that's a big blow to them next season. Tyreek Hill has his antics all over the place again. But where I want to start, Ziggy, is speaking of the mock drafts, and we're not going to get into your mock draft at all to keep the surprise alive, but I've been thinking a lot about what's the main thing that I'm focusing on for this draft? What's the main storyline? And Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter being, generational prospects, or maybe Travis Hunter really being the freak prospect that he is up there. But my attention is really on Shedeur Sanders right now. And I think that that's where most people's attention should be, because you can see some people have him above Cam Ward. Although at this point, it's consensus basically that the Titans will be taking Cam Ward. But some people view him more favorably than Cam. And then there are other drafts that have him sliding way down in the first round. And I know that the Giants are a team that everyone's circling, and that's really the first place at the moment that it looks like Shedeur will be questioned. The Browns, even whether they should be or not, it looks like they're going to go with Travis Hunter right now. And if not, it would be Abdul Carter. So I want to talk about the Giants for a second. As far as they go at 3, not what you mocked them to do, but what do you think the right move is for the Giants as far as Shedeur Sanders goes?
I think if Abdul Carter weren't struggling with this foot injury, it'd be a really easy answer. Take him, take the talent, see if you can get Shedeur later, maybe a move up and hope he falls. But foot injuries linger. They can take a lot of speed and explosiveness away. And we just don't know what's going to come out of Abdul Carter with this. Is he going to eventually need surgery? He says he doesn't before the draft process, but all of that is sort of clouding it. I also think, in last year's draft, there were 3 quarterbacks that you could be pretty confident had the potential to turn around a terrible team. We're talking a dog water franchise here. There were 3 teams that could do that, right? Or 3 players that could do that. Caleb Williams has the potential to do that. Jayden Daniels and Drake May. And all of them at least flash that potential. I think there are 0 of those quarterbacks this year. I don't think any of the guys in this draft are players that clearly profile to me as someone that can turn around a garbage franchise. So if that's where you're at, if you don't think that any of the players in this draft or any of the quarterbacks in this draft can turn around your terrible franchise, if you're a terrible franchise, don't take them. Or at least don't use the number 3 pick, the number 4 pick, one of these really early picks in the draft to do it. You want franchise-changing talent. You don't want a guy who can come in, play okay football like Kenny Pickett for a few years and then move on.
So I get what you're saying.
We've got to go back to this. For the people not watching, me and Paul just had an interaction. I cannot fathom right now.
What?
I get a message from Paul. Can we do a one-up of Ziggy? Sure, let's do a one-up
during his monologue.
During his monologue. Is Ziggy still in his monologue? I get a text from Paul. All right, let's go back. Not even 30 seconds later.
Well,
not even 30 seconds.
You understand that like my main job is a producer. I am a producer. That is my actual job. So when I'm watching, when Ziggy's in his monologue and I'm trying to do different things here, the right move is to go to Ziggy on the one-up. But then I'm getting ready to gear up a response, and I look over and I see producer Zach on his phone, probably talking to Hinge girls. So I got to send another text and say, hey, I'm about to come back in here. It's about locking in.
You are seeing live producing in the Paul Farrington. This is behind the scenes right here.
This is what I mean, for anyone out there, who's interested in producing, it's like this is the kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes here. And no, I'm just trying to keep the show afloat while producer Zach is talking to Hinge girls. It's trying to put the best product out.
Producer Zach was going to keep it afloat.
Producer Zach's got a lock in.
Like another 10 seconds in that monologue.
No, I guess to each his own. But all
right,
let me pick back up. Yes, I appreciate the passion, producer Zach. That's we all love to see that. I'm sure the listeners like to see that too. As far as Shedeur goes, going back to Ziggy's point, if we bring this back in on Shedeur Sanders, it's interesting to hear you say that, Ziggy, because you are the king. Your big take is throwing darts at the dartboard until you land the quarterback that works. So it's kind of interesting for me to hear you say, oh, I feel like it would be a mistake for them to take Shedeur at 3 here. And as far as Abdul Carter's foot injury goes, that's another weird thing for me as the draft comes around. We're talking like Jahad Campbell as well, the linebacker out of Alabama. People are talking about Jahad Campbell falling into the second round because he's dealing with an injury right now. But the same people who have him falling say, this could be a really, really good player shortly into the season. Just he's dealing with this injury right now. And I understand uncertainty can be around injuries can be alarming. But if you're confident he's going to fully recover, I mean, should Jahad Campbell not go in the 10 to 15 range just because he's going to be available in later summer or worst case scenario, September?
Well, the thing is when these players are injured, it makes evaluating them much harder. You can't do workouts. You can't get measurables this easily. And as you say, if you're 100% sure they'll come back 100%, that's great. But that just doesn't always happen. Yeah, that's why the Jahad Campbell thing I'm much less worried about. But like foot fractures are the sorts of things that we've seen derail promising careers.
No, you're right about as far as the foot injuries goes. Yeah, like that's an easier injury to aggravate and potentially.
The Campbell one doesn't make any sense to me. We've seen the tape. We know who he is. I think the reason that it's affecting the Campbell talk is because he's a player that people are hoping will be like Micah Parsons, right? He did one thing in college, but you really want to see him do something else in the NFL in order to be worthy of that really high pick. And getting measurables is important for that. I still have a lot of faith in him. I think he could be a great player. I don't think he should be falling too much, but what are you going to do?
Now, again, so with our show just going all over the place.
Let's go back to Shedeur.
Going back to Shedeur here, I do think that the Giants are going to take him. And here's why. Is because if they let him go, I'm seeing a lot of people right now saying, you know what, take Abdul Carter, take Travis Hunter, and then maybe you get a chance to double dip and trade back up for Shedeur Sanders. I really can't see that happening. As you go down the draft board, you and I were talking about this earlier today. I think there's a chance the Raiders could make a move at 6, the Jets at 7, the Saints at 9. There's just too many teams here, in my opinion, that would make a move for Shedeur where it doesn't become feasible for the Giants to move back up. If the Giants had a pick in the teens or maybe the early 20s as well, that's a much easier move up than from the second round. I mean, I don't know if they want to mortgage their future for Shedeur Sanders, regardless of how high they are on him. So, one, I don't think you're going to be able to double dip. It seems to me that's either you get him at 3 or you could trade back and hope he falls. That's the only way you're getting Shedeur. The other thing I'm looking at here, and this is more from the strategic side of things, I'm interested to hear your response. But when you think about the teams in the NFL who made the playoffs, right? 9 of those 14 teams had drafted their quarterback. Okay? 6 of the 8 in the divisional round drafted their quarterback. The only ones who didn't were the Rams and the Lions, who had the swap of Stafford and Goff. And what I'm trying to say here is the way to get your franchise back on track is drafting the right quarterback, drafting the franchise quarterback. And this is what you always talk about when you say throwing darts until you find your guy. Myles Garrett is unbelievable. Patrick Surtain is unbelievable. Justin Jefferson's unbelievable. But none of these guys are the ones that are going to propel the change for the franchise. It comes down to the quarterback. You need the quarterback to go on the run. I was looking back at since 2003, 18 of the 21 Super Bowl champion teams drafted their quarterback. Now, a lot of that was Peyton and Brady, Big Ben, Mahomes. And we have seen Stafford win one. We saw Peyton and Brady both win one with different teams. But that's sort of the point here, is that Hall of Fame quarterbacks and championship level quarterbacks aren't often available in free agency. You have to kind of find your guy in the draft most of the times to go on these Super Bowl runs. And that's why I'm just thinking, if I'm the Giants here, Hunter or Abdul Carter could be amazing. And they probably will be. But are they going to elevate you to a team that can win the Super Bowl? No. And I don't think anyone would say that. But Shedeur Sanders would have the chance if he pans out. And who knows when you're going to be picking a first-round quarterback again. Arch Manning's there, but how many guys next year really impress you? I just don't know how many opportunities you'll have for a guy who could be a franchise changer at the quarterback position. And that's why I'm looking at the Giants going, man, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are probably not surviving if they have another horrible season. So when you pair that, or I'm sorry, you make the trio of Daboll and Shane, Giants probably can't get Shedeur unless they take him at 3. And then who's the guy that changes the franchise? The quarterback. That's where I think the Giants should actually take Shedeur Sanders. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I won't spoil it too much. I think the Giants will definitely keep an eye on him and may still be targeting him, even if we see them do something like trading back. But the thing with Sanders is I've gone back, I've watched it. It is just, I can see why people think he's a high ceiling prospect. He's a very accurate passer. He's got enough athleticism. He handled pressure all right when he wasn't taking sacks. He didn't throw a whole lot of interceptions, but it's just very hard for me to see him making that jump. He took tons of sacks. He doesn't have, I think, the NFL arm talent to make the kinds of throws he could in college. And most importantly, he made a name for himself as a prospect playing with elite talent against bad schools. And in the NFL, you just can't do that. So I get why people are excited about him. I think he should be going in the first round. It's true.
I mean, last year,
I will make my prediction. You are going to look at Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter the same way people look at Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans. You're going to say, how did that guy make it into the first round? Because Travis Hunter is an unbelievable player.
I mean, look, Shedeur had a great year at Colorado. Like he was fantastic.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a terrible player. He should go in the first round. I don't think that. I mean, I don't even think Cam Ward is all that exciting a quarterback prospect. This feels like hyping a guy up because the class isn't good and guys need to keep their jobs.
There's definitely a degree of that going on with Shedeur Sanders. Like last year, where
maybe QB7 last year.
Yeah, maybe he's QB7. I mean, there's a chance he could be a little higher than that. Like there's a world where that's possible. Like he is an accurate passer. I think he's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not. Johnny Manziel to me was a little more of that, scramble around, make something.
They are not similar kinds of players. That's not what I mean. Yes, what I mean is they were both carried by one of the best wide receivers the sport's ever seen.
Yeah, I just think when you look at from a pure prospect standpoint, yeah, I understand what you're saying again. But I do think that there's more reason to believe in Shedeur as an NFL prospect than there was Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, well, this is the thing about the NFL draft is you only need one team to buy a player in order for them to get taken. Whereas if for a player to fall, you need every single team on the board to say, that's not my guy, that's not my guy, that's not my guy.
Oh, 100%. And this is what's so interesting about Shedeur Sanders. It's part of that. Hey, how good is this guy really? Just given the quarterback class, he's rising, right? So do you want to take the guy that you're really... There's no such thing as a sure thing as well when it comes to Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But if I'm just thinking, if I'm the Giants, if I'm a Giants fan and I'm predicting how I'm feeling 4 years in the future, right? If we get Abdul Carter, that he might be awesome. But can I really see us being a championship contending team? It'll depend on drafting another guy at some point. And eventually you have to roll the dice on a quarterback. I just don't know who it's going to be at that position for them to get them out of this rut they've been in now for what, 6-7 years? I mean, it's been unbelievable how long the Giants have been terrible. And if you draft Shedeur and it goes wrong, fine, you're just still horrible. But if it goes right, you're back in contention. And that's where I think that this rolling of the dice on Shedeur is starting to become more appealing to me, because you just need to change things up. And I don't think Abdul Carter would do that as great as he is.
I think you are right that Shedeur Sanders can be a high impact player. He has a chance to be the highest impact player in the entire draft. But it's not as if edge rushers are bums. It's not as if those are guys 100%. You can just get in free agency, right? We've seen what the rate is for an elite edge rusher. It's going to be, by the time Abdul Carter's up for an extension, it'll probably be $60 million plus a year is what those guys will be going for. That's just the fact. So if you need to take elite talent at positions you can't trade for and can't sign in free agency. This is why you don't take a running back very early. This is why you don't take a safety very early. You can get the best players in the NFL, all pros, in free agency. But edge rusher is not different there. Those guys are critical to team success. Basically, every team that has a chance to win the Super Bowl has a great defensive line. That's just something you need in the modern NFL. So I don't think I agree that Shedeur Sanders is going to add more wins than Abdul Carter if he's there. But that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I don't want people sitting back saying, oh, Paul's an idiot here, just deciding to pass on great prospects for the sake of quarterback. But there's a piece of me that's saying, yeah, when Shedeur is a reasonable pick at 3. If they went, this is why, Jackson Dart or Quinn Ewers, as you go down the draft board, yeah, eventually it becomes less and less practical to take one of these quarterbacks as opposed to prospects that you like more. But as far as Shedeur goes and Cam Ward, these are guys that people view as higher end or at least first round talents. So Shedeur still would have been a first round pick in the NFL draft last year.
I'm not sure that's true.
I definitely 100%. I think so. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm just looking at what the Giants need to get out of this, and I think they're just extending it with Abdul, even though he's unbelievable. So I don't want to deny that. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll see in the Ziggy mock draft what the Giants do at number 3. It sounds like there could be some sort of a surprise at that pick.
All right.
Let's move on here to the main topic of today's show. Although I thought the Shedeur stuff was really interesting.
Let's do the quick hitters. We're here.
Oh, you want to do the quick? Okay.
Let's do it. Why not?
Okay, a couple quick hitters here. As far as NFL news goes, we could take a moment of silence. Julio Jones has retired from the NFL.
Really? He's retired now? I thought he retired 3 years ago.
I actually thought when we got that text from so in our friend group, and I'm curious, if other guys have this growing up. Julio Jones took on. We just enjoyed talking about Julio Jones, and he became a fan favorite of our friend group growing up. So we get the text, Zach and I, from some of our friends. It's just, no, Julio's retired. And I just remember watching him growing up. Unbelievable. And you hear Larry Fitzgerald. I saw a video. I think NFL posted it. It's Larry Fitzgerald talking to Kyler Murray saying, this dude's the best I've ever seen. Julio Jones is just an unreal receiver. And that catch in the Super Bowl against the Patriots should have been enough to win it if Atlanta's not, taking 15-yard sacks and punting the ball back to Tom Brady. Julio Jones should have been a Super Bowl champion. I mean, unbelievable.
And that catch would have been an all-time Super Bowl moment. It would be up there with the helmet catch almost.
Yes, it would be behind the helmet catch, and it would be right next to the Santonio Holmes, probably underneath that still. But one of the
but it'd be an all-time moment. You'd see it every year in the lead up to the Super Bowl.
It was like Curse too. The Curse with Seattle, the bobbling catch against New England, just unbelievable. So Julio Jones is retired. Kirk Cousins to the Browns is starting to catch a little steam here as we get closer and closer to the draft, with Cleveland looking at, right now, it looks like Travis Hunter, and they need him. I mean, that receiving room outside Jerry Jeudy could use a lot of help. But if the Browns do go with Travis Hunter, who's throwing the ball there? Who's throwing the ball in Cleveland? Well, some people are thinking about reuniting Kirk Cousins and Kevin Stefanski. Look, it would take a lot. The Falcons are probably going to, at some point, going to have to eat a lot of money with Kirk Cousins. And as far as the feasibility goes, Ziggy, can you see this actually happening?
The thing about Kirk Cousins is he's owed a big salary next year, $27 million, then $35 each year after that. The only way this trade works is if the Falcons agree to eat almost all of that. So the question becomes, right? Like the Falcons can use Kirk Cousins to buy a draft pick. The question is, how much are they willing to pay for an NFL draft pick?
Yeah.
If they're willing to eat, say, 25 million of that, they can buy themselves a big, juicy draft pick. If they're not, though, it's going to be harder. So I think as the season goes on and as the offseason goes on, we'll see what teams are willing to do. Honestly, send him to Minnesota.
Wait, isn't the Kirk? I thought the Kirk dead cap hit was like $65 million.
Well, but that's because of the signing bonus.
Yeah. So if they release him, it's a $65 million.
Well, if they trade him, it'll be like $37 million. That's what's remaining on the signing bonus because the Browns would be taking on some of the like that guaranteed roster bonus next year, for instance.
Okay. Yeah. Because a lot of the big detractors for these teams are they don't want to take on much of, if any, of the contract.
Something tells me the Falcons are okay taking gigantic dead cap hits from their quarterbacks in order to get a mid-round draft pick.
Well, yeah, I mean, if Kirk's just sitting there, right? Like,
I mean, this is what they do with Matt Ryan, right? They took at the time the largest dead cap hit in the history of the NFL to move on from Matt Ryan.
This is the danger of teams handing out these insanely large quarterback contracts.
I mean, you remember we loved Kirk. We wanted him to stay, but when we saw that contract, we started celebrating the Vikings let him go.
Yeah, you just can't give, and this is the problem as guys are going to get paid more and more. You start seeing these teams who are put into the cap hell situations, like the Browns. The Browns can't do anything. The Falcons can't really do anything.
Well, the Falcons aren't in cap hell. They just don't.
They're not in cap hell. Sorry, but they're like. I mean, you're in dead cap.
They have $40 million tied up in Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, like that to me is some form of cap hell with your.
Well, I mean, you're mentioning them with the Browns.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Browns is historically horrendous. So Kirk, but I do think if Kirk went to Cleveland, it gets interesting because I think he can still.
Yeah, they might finish third in the division.
They might, but they have a chance to compete for a wild card with Kirk Cousins.
Third in the division is their ceiling with Kirk Cousins.
Probably, but that could still be competing for a wild card. That could be.
There's only one team that's going to make a wild card of Kirk Cousins at the helm. That's the Minnesota Vikings.
Wait, like as the starting quarterback?
Yeah, if we're starting him, we make a wild card. That's it.
Probably, but I'm ready to roll with JJ. If it's not Aaron Rodgers, I'm ready to go roll with JJ McCarthy. The last quick hitter here, and quote unquote quick. The Dolphins, Zach. This was actually producer Zach wanted this. Producer Zach threw this into the chat. Teron Armstead retires after 12 seasons with the Saints and Dolphins. It's Armstead.
Oh, I thought he retired. I thought it was like Julio. I thought he retired years ago. Has this guy even been playing football?
Yeah, he can do very well.
So I thought he lived on the injury list.
No, he played most of the season with us.
Poor producer Zach. He's so sad. After the Armstead news came out, producer Zach just texted, like, blow it up. He said we need to just blow it all up. And Tyreek Hill on Monday afternoon. Yeah, Tyreek Hill's doing this again. Like, it seems like it's leading towards disaster for Miami. At the same time, though, I do think that when all this settles, the Dolphins will be a wild card contender again next season. I don't think they have a Super Bowl ceiling, but they absolutely can make a playoff run. And, you just got to get in. You never know what happens. They're another one of those weird teams where they're going to be in this purgatory for a while now. And
for a while, we've been in purgatory.
Well, no, you were in hell. You've elevated to purgatory, so you can take that as a win.
If that's an elevation.
If that's an elevation, sure. If that's an elevation,
I don't know. We've been 8-8 for the last 18 years.
I don't know, dude. You had some really bad teams. Like now you're relevant as far as the playoff picture goes.
Yeah, they're relevant to lose in the first round.
Yes. So I guess that's whether or not would you rather be completely irrelevant and drafting high in the draft, maybe swinging for a new quarterback, or in purgatory? Probably the former.
But I'll say this though about Tyreek Hill. I've reached the point. I don't care if he's trolling. I don't care if it's a bid. I don't care if he's just having fun. The Dolphins have to be sick of this. Like every single week, he's sending out a tweet where he's vaguely asking to get traded. And then he says, no, I'm just messing around.
It is weird.
And this team's not going anywhere anyway. Like at a certain point, I think you have to just get fed up. Send him to the Packers for a year. Send him to the Chiefs for a year. Send him to the Chargers for a year. There's all sorts of teams he could go to.
We've talked about this a lot. Would Packers fans want Tyreek Hill? And most of them are saying no.
I don't see how you couldn't want Tyreek Hill for a year. I kind of don't. If you don't want him, tell me in the comments. I do not understand why you'd be opposed to. I'm not talking giving Tyreek Hill some gigantic extension, but if you can add him for a year, why not?
Well, I think immediately people would just start saying locker room cancer, doesn't like playing cold weather to begin with. In Green Bay, if you win the division like you're hoping to, you're going to be playing cold weather football games. Like,
he played in Kansas City. He'll be fine.
But no, forget that. But it's the locker room cancer part. It's just.
I think after a while, the Tyreek Hill story seems to be he goes somewhere and then for a while it's good, but then he gets kind of sick of it when things aren't going well, and he sort of does this thing. But he'll be good for a year or two. And if your team's good, if the Dolphins were Super Bowl contenders, he'd just be having a good time.
If I were a Packer fan and Tyreek Hill got traded to Green Bay, I'd be so jacked up. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah, but you want Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota. You just get excited about it. I'm a little crazy.
Well, yeah, I do, but still. Well, I thought you were arguing that you would want Tyreek Hill.
No, I would. I'm just saying you're not the guy to give that.
No, I am the guy to do this. Like, I don't understand why more people won't listen to me, and just in general. Like Tyreek Hill going to Green Bay, of course it would work out. It naturally slides everyone into their right spots in that receiving room. It gives them explosion that they're missing without Christian Watson. If Tyreek Hill went to the Packers, I immediately upgrade them in my Super Bowl contender list. I think he's that big of a deal. He'd be that beneficial for the offense. And if Jordan Love could use anyone in the league to help him get out of the funk he was in, because I think a lot of it was due to the injury, but to get out of this, there are not many guys I'd name over Tyreek Hill for one season. Oh, that offense would be terrifying. Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Jayden Reed. Oh my gosh.
I mean, this guy's a 5-time All-Pro wide receiver. I'm not counting the kick returner year. And he's still a very good player. I know that last year Miami was tough, but the 2 years before he combined for 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. This guy can still play.
He was almost the MVP 2 years ago. It was absurd. If the Vikings guy might be jumping through the roof. All right, let's move on here. Again, to the main part of the show, as I was saying just 20 minutes ago. We're talking about interesting teams. What teams have your attention? Who's captivating heading into the 2025 NFL season? I had a list here, Ziggy, and I made an expanded list of about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's about 10 teams that are in contention for me. I would say...
So almost half the NFL.
Well, I'd say a third of the NFL, roughly. But not all those teams were serious. I just wanted to put down anyone who could potentially be in my top 5. So between the two of us, let's do a top 5 for the most interesting teams in football. Let's just get the teams first, and then we'll rank it. Who are you proposing first for this top 5?
Am I starting at 5 or am I starting at 1 or am I just throwing a team out?
Yeah, throw a team out. And producer Zach, feel free to tell us whether or not that this team can be involved.
I think this team clearly belongs to the number 1 spot for the most interesting. I think it has to be the Cincinnati Bengals. The defense was terrible last year. There's no doubt about it. But anytime you've got Joe Burrow with his receivers back, there's all sorts of drama about what's going to happen on the defense. But the defense, however it goes, is going to be at least marginally better. It's tough to be a whole lot worse than they were last year. I really want to see what this Cincinnati team is going to be able to do with Joe Burrow and the offense back at full strength and Al Golden doing his darndest to make this a functional defense. That's
pretty funny because I had a third of the league here and I did not have the Bengals on
Really?
I think they are an interesting team, but right now, I think they haven't done anything.
I mean, I'm not putting the Eagles and the Chiefs up there as the most interesting team. These teams are going to be good.
I don't have them either. I think the most.
Who do you have? Do you have the Titans?
I think the most interesting team going into this season are the Chicago Bears. I think the Bears.
I got them at number 2.
Okay, sure. As the Bear were the Bengals at your number 1?
Yeah,
I think the Bears. Yeah, so we can agree on this one with Caleb and Ben Johnson coming in. Again, we have a lot of Packers fans, a lot of NFC North fans who listen to this show. It's a lot of fun to just come out and say, well, the Bears won the offseason like they always do. But we've been saying this for a while now. You have to acknowledge a strong offseason when you see one. And with what they've done along the offensive line, with the coach that they brought in, people are getting on me because I'm saying they brought in the best head coaching candidate. I didn't say the best coach in the league. I said the best candidate that was out there. And Ben Johnson was. If you gave every team their list of guys, most teams would have Ben Johnson at the top of that this offseason. So you get the number one prospect at the coaching position. You upgrade the line that's been an issue for a long time, and you get year 2 of Caleb Williams now with all that added in. I think the defense is very good. This is a year where the Bears need to make a jump. It might not necessarily be a playoff team, but they need to be competing for a playoff spot at the end of the season. I got them at 2, or I have them in this top 5.
I totally agree. As you say, right? People say that Bears are off-season kings every year, and this just doesn't feel true. There are many years where people are talking about them, and I think, like, who did they add that was significant? This is a blue-collar offseason. They said, here are our needs. We need to improve the trenches. We need to improve our head coach. We need to get a functional operation in here. And despite the team not really being a football team for the last, 10 weeks of the year, or 11 weeks of the year, right? After the Eberflus meltdowns, the Hail Mary, what I think was the single worst performance in the entire NFL against the Patriots. Everything went wrong. They were still competitive against some of the best teams in the NFL, right? This Bears team felt a lot better than 5-12 last year, right? Close games against the Lions, beating the Packers. I can see a world where they somehow sneak their way to a division win. I don't think it's particularly likely, but there's a reason why the NFC North is the only division where all 4 teams are real betting contenders to win the division. There's no other division like it.
I do believe a division title is in play for Chicago. But
I think they're down there with the Vikings as unlikely. But again, every team in that division, including the Bears, has a chance.
Well, but yeah, people are going to get on you for saying that. And I think just clarifying a little bit, if you're saying that you can see the line for Chicago to go on a playoff run, it's a murky. The Lions regress.
Jordan Love and the Packers things don't quite click like last year. The Vikings, JJ McCarthy's not ready to lead the team to 13 wins. It's those none of those are crazy. If the Packers win 10 or 11 games next year, the Bears could win 10 or 11 games next year.
Or it could just be the Bears take a jump. That they take a jump like the Commanders took. They took a jump like the Texans took. That's in play. And I don't think that you're right, that any other division, you can't really see the Browns making a leap. I can't really see the Titans making that. I think the NFC North does have that potential. Okay, so right now on our list, we got the Bengals and the Bears here. We have 3 more teams, and we'll see. We could argue for someone else if we really feel like there's an injustice. Who is your next team?
The next team I've got is the Los Angeles Rams. What?
The Rams? What?
I like swapping out Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams. I think that's going to be fun. I think this young defense is going to continue to ascend. I was really excited to see what Matthew Stafford and the Rams last year were the only team that was really able to challenge the Eagles in the playoffs. I think this team has huge potential next year.
They're good, but as far as interesting goes, captivating.
I am captivated to see what Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford can do. I will be captivated by it.
They're your number 3 most interesting team this season.
You're so incredulous.
I am incredulous. I like the Rams.
Well, you're going to put the Minnesota Vikings up there because they added a bunch of has-beens and let Sam Darnold.
Well, the Vikings are more interesting than the Rams this year, but no.
I think interesting teams you have to consider. It's not very fun to watch a team, or very interesting to watch a team that loses a whole bunch of games. I think the Minnesota Vikings next year are going to lose a whole bunch of games. I think the Rams will be one of the most intriguing teams in the NFL.
I think they'll be one of the best teams. I don't know about maybe towards the end of the year we're saying it's interesting.
You can't tell me you don't want to see Stafford and Devontae.
I do want to see them, but I'm not sure I put them as the Bears are interesting because it could go really right or it could go wrong. I think the Rams are just going to be good.
I think they could be good. I also think they could be great.
Fair enough. I'm going to say, to me, number 2 was the Patriots. I think the Patriots in year 1
add a bunch of bums. Yeah, sure. Wow, really exciting.
Year 1 of Vrabel, year 2 of Drake May. I'd like to see what Drake May can do now that they've gone and they made some moves, giving him Stephon Diggs in the draft. They're going to add either Travis Hunter or a lineman, in my opinion, just shore up that line a bit. And this is a team that I don't think they're going to the playoffs, but they made a lot of moves on defense. They bring in Harold Landry, they bring in Carlton Davis, they bring in Milton Williams. A lot of moves in New England. A guy that you think can right the ship in Vrabel. I wouldn't be shocked if New England takes a bigger leap next year than most people expect. I don't want to say immediately that they're, the Texans or the Commanders of next year, but I think I'm very intrigued to see, can they get this thing back on track?
I don't have it in me to put a team of a win total with 7.5 wins as one of the most intriguing teams in the NFL.
But there's so many storylines to watch with them.
There's really not. Here's the storylines. They overpaid for a bunch of defensive free agents. Mike Vrabel can maybe sweat 8 or 9 wins out of this team. Drake May will continue to have to play hero ball. That's the story.
Garrett Bradbury doesn't swing it for you at center.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to watch him get bowled over on a critical down, I guess. It'll be interesting to see happen to somebody else.
If they wind up with Travis Hunter, would that put them into your top 5?
That would make a big difference to me.
Okay. Again, it looks like the
I think there's no chance they did.
But if he fell there, okay. And as far as position, if he went to New England, it would receiver.
Who knows? I mean, I think Travis Hunter's an interesting storyline ever. He's still out there saying, I'll play every single snap.
That's what's so exciting about him. The more you're hearing people talk about it, and especially as you're hearing, former NFL players talk, you hear things along the lines of, if he goes on defense, you kind of got to commit. There's a defensive game plan here. It's a little different than giving him a few routes. Think of Deion Sanders. He played some routes at receiver, right? But receiver, you could have some plays drawn up for him and throw him in every once in a while. But if you're going to have him play defensive back, that feels like a little bit more of a commitment to me. And I think the Patriots would use him as a receiver. I think that they would pair him with Stephon Diggs, and that could be pretty fun in year 2 of Drake May. Okay, so right now, our top 5 most interesting teams are the Bears, Bengals, Patriots, and Rams. I'll let you close off the top 5, and then I'll probably tear it to shreds. So
you're not going to hate this take. This take is absolutely correct. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
At number 5, I'm putting in the Washington Commanders.
Okay, we're aligned.
They check all the boxes for me. They made a couple interesting additions. I want to see what Debo can do in his new role. Laramie Tunsil is always an underrated player. Javon Kinlaw is maybe the worst signing of the offseason, but that's okay. But really, the thing you're paying attention to here is last season with the Commanders, you got to see Jayden Daniels immediately settle in as one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But we've seen it go a couple of different ways in year 2. We've seen guys, I'm not saying he's going to beat Patrick Mahomes. We've seen guys like Patrick Mahomes just get better. And we've also seen guys like CJ Stroud take a step back, or at least not improve how you want. This division is theirs for the taking. The Cowboys are reeling. They have a lot more needs than people think. The Giants are hot garbage. The Philadelphia Eagles, they played good football against them last year. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but this Commanders team in the running with Philadelphia will be awesome. And I can't wait to see Marshawn Lattimore healthy for a season. Another step forward from Jayden Daniels. I think this really, we should have put them higher. I think this could be the most exciting team in the entire NFL next year.
Oh yeah. I'm not necessarily saying that the way we ordered.
No, I'm apologizing for myself. They're higher than the Rams.
Oh, as in should have been brought up sooner. Yeah. I would agree. I think the big question around Jayden Daniels and one that I'm excited to see the answer to is, does he enter that like surefire top 5 quarterback in football?
He can,
because right now, like, we have Lamar, we have Mahomes, we have Burrow, we have Josh Allen, and then there's kind of that question mark where I think Jayden Daniels is there. CJ Stroud is there. Justin Herbert's there. Some people would say Jalen Hurts is in that. Matthew Stafford.
DirecTV put Kyler Murray there.
Kyler Murray was put there. Was he put there?
DirecTV put him at number 4.
DirecTV, yeah, all right. DirecTV puts Kyler Murray.
That's where I go for all my sports news, directtv.com. Talk about a guy who's been totally forgotten about, Kyler Murray.
Kyler's good. The Cardinals, they were your team last year. And Jonathan Gannon, I think, is going to continue to do a better job with that team. I think they'll be better. But yes, as far as the Commanders go, will Jayden... we put out a reel on this, and it did quite well. Were the Commanders a team last season that is closer to a 10-7 team, right? That got hot at the right time, had some big wins. Are they closer to that 10-7 team that competes for the division in all likelihood a wild card? Or are they going to ride this high into next year and elevate to that top tier with Philadelphia, with Detroit, where they're winning 12 games and they're competing for the 1 seed? If Jayden Daniels if he takes quote unquote the leap, like we were saying, it's hard to imagine a leap, but if he does, then yeah,
playing at that level for a full season would be a leap.
Yes. That fine.
Like, if we saw this from like Jordan Love, a leap would have been playing it close to his second half of season level for a full year. Yeah, getting it done, playing at a high level for longer is itself.
And outside of just Jayden Daniels, you were alluding to it. They made a lot of moves this offseason too that are big, that are win now moves. They brought in Debo. It's funny that I'm going to say it's number 2 here, but Noah Brown, as another receiver. Laramie Tunsil, a huge addition on the line. Like, they made some big time moves that were representative of a team that believes they could win now. And getting Bobby Wagner back too. Bobby Wagner, unreal career. Like, if you go look at Pro Football Reference on Bobby Wagner,
he's a surefire Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I think everyone knows how great he is, but as far as the casual fan has
kind of forgotten about him.
Yeah, who Brian Urlacher is. You know who Ray Lewis is. You know these stud linebackers.
Zach Thomas?
I was going to say Zach. I was actually thinking Zach Thomas.
NFL street legend.
Zach Thomas might be closer to the Bobby Wagner side of unbelievable linebacker who people just don't really know as much.
Better stats than Urlacher, but still didn't make the Hall of Fame before him. Crazy.
Well, it's the iconic. You drive through Chicago and you see all the Urlacher is a presence, man. He's a media presence with that hair, those hair advertisements. But yeah, the Commanders. I almost said the R word. The Commanders made quite a few moves and are a very interesting team to me. So our list here, the 5 teams we said first, were the Bears, the Bengals, the Patriots, the Rams, and the Commanders. No particular order. Those are the 5 teams we said.
You got to let me get one more team up here.
Yeah. So I want to hear you. It sounds like you have your top 5. So what is your actual top 5?
So I haven't ranked them in a clear order, but I've got the Commanders, I've got the Lions, I've got the Rams, I've got the Bengals. Also coming in there, the Denver Broncos, I think, are a very interesting team. They overperformed expectations last year. Win total was 5.5. They went 10-7. They really started to find their groove towards the second half of the season. I think realistically, they could be one of the better teams in the NFL. This is their year to try and challenge Kansas City. I don't buy the Raiders at all. The Chargers are interesting, but I think that AFC West is the second most interesting division in football. I'm really excited to see where Bo Nix and the Broncos slot in there. Even though Evan Engram isn't a big decision maker or a big difference maker, he's a decent player. So, they added a few 49ers and Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga. So I'm interested to see there. And then number 5, the last team I've got in there is the 49ers.
Okay, so real quick before we get into San Francisco for a second here, did you have how many teams do you have here? Do you have the Broncos, 5. Chargers, Bengals, Rams, Commanders, and 49ers?
I didn't know the Chargers aren't in there.
Oh, you're just mentioning them.
I mentioned that I think the AFC West is the second most interesting division. I'm interested in seeing what the Chargers do, but they're not as exciting to me because I think we have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be.
I had all 3 of those teams you just mentioned of the 10 teams I had them all listed there as well. The same reasons for Chargers and Broncos and 49ers, I think, is a great poll, Ziggy. And it's a team that's kind of falling under the radar this offseason as a contender next year.
Their win total is 10.5. People are expecting a lot from them.
Well, when you go look at that 49ers schedule, it's hard not to see 10 wins.
Yeah, but then you look at that 49ers free agency where they lost almost every good player on the team, and it's hard to see 7 wins.
Yeah, that's where you get this, this polarizing opinions about the 49ers right now. I do think that they are going to win a lot of games next year. I'm not sure how, they're not better than they were the past few seasons. I don't think this is a better roster.
But if they're healthier, they will be better than they were last year.
Yeah, just having Ayuk, have Ayuk be healthy, and we'll see how some of these younger receivers and McCaffrey. If McCaffrey's healthy, it changes everything on this team. So I'm with you there. I think the 49ers are a very interesting team. So you don't have the Bears or Patriots in there?
The Patriots I'm really out on. The Bears I am very interested in. It's just I think I'm more pessimistic about the Bears taking it. I think it's going to be more like a Maoist great leap forward than a Houston Texans great leap forward.
The a couple of the other teams, they didn't make my top 5, but I put down Seattle with Darnold. I would like to see how he looks.
I just think that the Seahawks just got worse. I'm excited to see Darnold, but everything around him deteriorated, and I don't think they were super exciting to begin with.
Do you think last season Darnold elevated the Vikings or the Vikings elevated Darnold? I think both is acceptable here.
I think both is true. The thing about Sam Darnold is he needs decent weapons. I don't think he needs Justin Jefferson, but really what Sam Darnold needs is a functional offensive line. If you give him a decent offensive line that can give him time, I mean, you saw this. He's great at making reads. He's great at making good plays.
Oh yeah,
he was not a Justin Jefferson merchant last year, right? The guy can play football, but he needs time. And when he collapsed the Vikings, you saw an interior offensive line get obliterated.
Well, thank God he's in Seattle.
Yeah, is Seattle the team that's going to be able to save Sam Darnold and give him the incredible offensive line I think he really desires? I'm not so sure.
I think there were just 2 more teams I wrote down. I do think the Packers are a very interesting team with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is a huge, I don't want to say a question mark because I think he's a good quarterback, but this is kind of like your Bengals take here.
He is best QB in the NFL upside.
Yeah, the question mark is really about good versus great. Are you going to see him take that leap to be a great quarterback, back to what he was at the end of the season?
Or will there be 55 million dead in the largest famine in human history?
Yes, it really is though for the Packers. We've talked about this quite a few times now. They have all the weapons. They have a bunch of really good weapons. I don't think they have any game-changing weapons at the receiver position right now, like change the franchise type of guys. But if Jordan Love is very good, that doesn't matter. The guys they have are good enough there. So we'll see. This is where Tyreek Hill would be a huge help to that roster. But Jordan Love to me is one of those guys. And then the last team that I think has to be considered, assuming Aaron Rodgers signs with them, the Steelers would make the list for me as well.
This is because you're wondering, is it going to be George Pickens, DK Metcalf, or Aaron Rodgers that ruins the season?
I think yes, I am captivated by an Aaron Rodgers, George Pickens, DK Metcalf.
That would be it's unfortunate that Hard Knocks in season already did the AFC North, because that would be an all-timer of the Steelers. Middle of the season with those guys, imagine they're like 2-6.
But that's the other thing, though. The Steelers don't do that. Tomlin doesn't go 2-6.
No, he goes 2-6 and then wins.
Oh, then he wins.
Wins 8 in a row.
Then he wins 8 in a row to sneak into the wild card. But we
saw that a couple years ago. Remember, like Duck Hodges going out there winning a bunch of games.
It's weird how they do that. I don't know how. There is something to be said about. I was going to say sustained excellence, but I guess sustained slightly above average play.
Sustained competency.
Competency, yes, that's the perfect word there. Look, there are teams. You talk to producer Zach. You talk to Jets fans around here. Recently, Giants fans. Getting to the playoffs is fun. Yeah, you get your ass kicked by the Ravens or the Bills most of the time, but you are relevant. This is where I do think the Steelers now in the draft, and we'll wait. We will hold this conversation until your draft comes out. But as far as Jackson Dart comes into play here, the guy that I feel like he's a little bit of a Kenny Pickett pick if they take him there, someone who you're probably overdrafting. But again, it's another, no pun intended, dart thrown at the dartboard of the quarterback position. They're a very intriguing team in the draft to me. So we could table that for Thursday. But the Steelers to me are one of those teams that I am very excited to watch next year. Okay, so that was your list. You had one more time for everyone?
I had the Bengals. I had the Bengals. I had the I don't know why I'm blanking on this. I got the list right in front of me. I had the Bengals. I had the Commanders. I had the Rams. I had the 49ers, and I closed it off with the I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
You said a few teams at the end. You had the Broncos, Chargers.
Yeah, and the Broncos, excuse me. Yeah, like boy, it's one of those days. It's I got to give a talk on philosophy in an hour. It's sometimes it just happens.
We also said the top 5 teams and then proceeded to list like 11,
20
teams that are interesting. So
here's what it turns out. You could put the Cardinals in there if you wanted, right? Kyler Murray's coming back. Josh Sweat. Every team. I mean, it's like Mark Davis said, right? Every team is undefeated right now. Every single
great.
team has a story.
That's what
I mean, you could put the Colts up there, right? Any team in the NFL can make a case for we're one of the most interesting. The Panthers, is Bryce Young going to get it done?
You're right. That's what's so fun about football. The parody.
The Jaguars?
The off-season parody, I should say, because it's not in the regular season. You do have the separation, but
Jaguars.
Is Trevor Lawrence going to figure it out and be the prince that was promised?
I think you can name any teams. Zach, name any team in the league, and we could find something about them that's interesting.
Cowboys.
Oh, I think they're.
Are you kidding me? The Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott redemption tour. You got
Well, they're probably going to draft a receiver. How's the offense going to look? Micah Parsons is
on his tour. Is he going to start holding out because he's not getting a deal?
Yeah, I think that there's a bunch of the Cowboys. Actually, I almost added them to my list.
The Atlanta Falcons.
The Jets are super interesting.
What's interesting about the Jets?
I think the Jets are one that
Justin Fields is getting his time. He's coming back with Garrett Wilson, all time buddy.
I think the Jets.
They've got the offensive line going. Aaron Glenn is in there.
Hard to sell. Aaron Glenn year one is interesting. Riding that ship that has been. Look, the Lions did it, right? The Lions actually changed the fate. Where I still think the curse exists for Detroit, which we got in a big argument about last year with Lions fans. But as far as being irrelevant to now a top dog in the NFC, the Lions were one of those teams like the Browns, like the Jets, that are just never good. And found a way to get back into the conversation. Can Aaron Glenn be that guy with the Jets? I don't necessarily think signing Justin Fields to a 2-year, $40 million contract is the right start to that, but we'll see. There's interest there. They're hard to. I don't think that they might have too much of a case for top 5 or top 10, but they are interesting, and they're the Jets. So. I can't tell if Ziggy's frozen right now or not, so we'll wrap it up right here. Oh, he's not.
No, I'm not frozen.
Unbelievably still.
Monastic stillness.
Like half the time on this show, I'm looking at Ziggy and I can't tell if he's frozen or not. And he's just completely.
You got to look at Ziggy's beautiful eyes.
Yeah, I was looking for blinking and I couldn't see it. All right, so there you have it. A little Shedeur talk, some quick hitters: Julio, Kirk Cousins, Miami Dolphins, always fun, and then listing every team in the NFL and what's most interesting about them. So we hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll be back with Ziggy's mock draft 1.0 on Thursday. I cannot wait to get into that.
There's going to be some angry comments.
It's going to be awesome. And we'll see you on Thursday.